Okay, so this one's a little weird. I'm basically just doing a handful of arcade games from the main years that arcade games were a big thing. Also, some games didn't make it on here because I had them on other lists, like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, which I admit was stupid, because they honestly belong on this list more, but oh well. Also, one game per franchise, spin-offs or different genres, but the same franchise kind of is their own thing. I'll play all these games enough to know if I like it, and if I feel like I like it enough, I'll probably play through the whole thing. I also included some very short reviews I had already made of some of these games, because they're short enough to fit this format better than how I had them before. I also did not include games that require a special setup, such as Dance Dance Revolution, where you need a big dance pad, although Dance Dance Revolution is for sure my number one if it was on here. Also keep in mind, this is what I like best, not what everyone likes best. So if you disagree, I don't want to hear your bitching about it. I'm also making one more change. If I think a game could go into my top 10, I will give it a star. And then at the end, I'll just go through the ones with a star and pick my top 10 out of those. So let's begin. 720 is a skateboarding game. Kinda cool to see a skateboarding game before Tony Hawk. The goal is to collect money and win medals and to do so fast. And there is a timer. And when the timer hits 0, the infamous skate or die happens.
Skate or die.
Where you must escape a cloud that wants to kill you. This game's alright, but I don't see myself ever choosing it if I was to choose a skateboarding game. Alien Storm. This is a unique game as you battle aliens who have invaded Earth. I've battled aliens before in many games, but I can't think of many where they invaded Earth. Now I say that, and then Rainbow Six of all franchises does just that. In Alien Storm, you are a food vendor / alien extermination team. Both of those. You play as 3 different characters. There's a woman, a robot, and a man. And honestly, the man is the worst character because he fires upwards all the time. Each character also has a special move. The goal is to fight off aliens and save civilians. It plays really well, and there's a role to use too. The aliens look great and the vibe of the game is a lot of fun too. In some segments you will have to shoot a lot of stuff in a first-person rails segment, and in other segments you are running and jumping like you are superpowered, and this one's also on rails. This helps to keep variety. It's not perfect by any means, but the gameplay is fun and some of the bosses and segments are really enjoyable. Altered Beast. In this game you go to rescue Zeus's daughter from what I thought to be one sorcerer, but it turns out to be multiple. It's a beat 'em up and it's honestly not a very good one. So why is it on this list? Well, you see, when these white wolves come, if you defeat them, a blue orb will appear. And with each new orb, you get more powerful. And to the point your body is way too big for your head. Grabbing enough orbs will transform you into a beast. Depending on the level, it could be a wolf, a dragon, a bear, or a tiger. The levels last as long as it takes you to get to the orbs and transform. If you reach the boss before you have the orbs, he just runs away and you gotta keep going. But once you are the Altered Beast, the game gets so much more fun, and honestly, if it didn't have this stick, I don't think I'd be interested. Also, this game has voiceover, not good, but still cool.
Rise from your grave.
APB is a game where you play as a police car and you get points by meeting your quota in traffic tickets without getting too many demerits. I honestly don't like this game. It controls poorly, and I really just didn't have fun with it. Arch Rivals is a basketball game with some interesting animation. It reminds me of NBA Jam if it was a lot tamer. Also, after every point you get an animation from the coach or ref or cheerleaders. Armored Warriors is a beat 'em up from Capcom where you play as giant fucking mechs. I thought I was gonna dislike it the first time I played it, but no, I loved it. You can trade out body parts and weapons, you can fight other mechs. Sometimes there's smaller people than you, which you can squish, which makes you feel so much bigger. It's fast and intense, and I played it with a friend all the way through. It kicks ass. Asteroids is a straight up classic. You're a tiny ship and you shoot asteroids and try not to die. This is one of Atari's biggest games, and I remember having a version of it on my computer as a kid. I can honestly say though, I'm not really into this game. Next up is Captain America and the Avengers. This game doesn't have as good as sprites, but still has a lot of personality. You play as Captain America, Iron Man, Hawkeye, and a weird looking Vision. And this is basically how my sister walks and reacts to everything. And yeah, you heard right, Hawkeye is in this game too. This game is a beat 'em up with a couple different segments where you'll be flying or swimming or something. The dialogue isn't the greatest, but it's still funny. Quicksilver also sometimes runs by and drops off health. Battle Circuit. This one is a pretty fun beat 'em up, and my favorite part of it is that you are bounty hunters, so you can use the coins you earn to buy upgrades. It does feel very made for kids type vibe, almost like that classic Buzz Lightyear Star Command or something. It's a bit too cheesy to be like Cowboy Bebop, but yeah, I'd say that Buzz Lightyear Star Command type vibe, but more like 80s, 90s cartoon. That's about what you're dealing with here. Black Widow is a game where you're a spider killing all the bugs around you, where the buttons, each button is like a firing direction, a lot like a primitive version of Smash TV. Bosconian is a space shooter by Namco, where you actually move. The goal being to destroy these super large big ships while avoiding the little ones that chase you and obstacles in your way. Basically, avoid dying and destroy the big ships each round. I kinda like this game. It's better to me than games like Galaga or Galaxian and deserves to be talked about more. Bubbles is a game where you can clean a sink and become a bigger and bigger bubble while avoiding bugs. There's a lot of games that are literally just this. The one I remember playing was a Flash game called Fishy, where you're a little fish and you become bigger and bigger as you eat fish. It's a lot like that. Captain Commando is another one I played with a friend. It's a beat 'em up that I literally played all the way through to the end, just to say, it's okay. I do like cutting people in half though. Championship Sprint. It's that mini game you see in so many party games where you gotta win a 3-lap race with a car that controls poorly. As a minigame in party games, I love it. As its own game, no thank you. Centipede is a classic Atari game about shooting a giant centipede to stay alive. It's alright. One of the classic Atari games I like best, but not one I would willingly choose to play. Defender is a space shooter. I can't tell you much more than that because I was confused on what was happening and not really having fun. Defender 2 is its sequel, and it plays basically like its predecessor, so I don't really know what's going on and didn't enjoy it. Dig Dug. I've heard this game called The Thinking Man's Pac-Man, to which I say no. No, it's not that. Dig Dug is about inflating all enemies till they explode and die without you dying yourself. The strategy comes from you making the tunnels and using traps against them. Dig Dug is a classic and actually one of the classics I like a lot. No matter what, Dig Dug is super fun and I'm always up for a game. D&D Tower of Doom. It's a beat 'em up with items and multiple pathways and side quests, and it's fucking awesome. The monsters are awesome, the art is awesome. It's been ported to enough places to make it easy to find, and you can play couch co-op with it. The sprites are really cool, and there's shops and such. I'd literally give it one of those gold stars, but here's the thing. There's a sequel, and it's even better. D&D Shadow over Mysteria is gonna get that. A beautiful sequel worth all the things that made the first game great, plus more. It's longer and has more options. It has more characters. It has some badass sprites and enemies. I still love the shops. And it has a badass motherfucking dragon. This game would have been a quarter eater, but playing it on Steam, you just spend all the credits you want. Fantastic beat 'em up. One of the best, if not the best, fantasy beat 'em up. eSWAT. And in this game you play as a cop going after bad guys, but you eventually become a robot cop going after bad guys. This game wants to be RoboCop really badly, but instead of getting hurt and being rebuilt, you unlock robot suits based on your rank. The game will tell you your target and what they did. You also spend a lot of time walking around like a monkey. So that's different. You kill everyone on your way there, and when you finally reach the boss, you just arrest them. And some of these bosses are crazy. Like there's this big man who can turn into a sonic ball at you, or there's this guy who uses animals to fight for him, which sucks because I don't want to kill the animals. Also, I kept shooting this hostage. When you get the suit, you feel so much more powerful, but to counter this, they throw a gazillion more enemies at you. The final boss also has a screen literally stating his world domination. Galaga is the sequel to Galaxian, perhaps better known. It's like Galaxian, but with better animation, more movement in ships, and you can get 2 ships to fire. One of the biggest classics. Galaxian is Galaga but slower, and not as good. Although I had this game on the PC as a kid, and it had options to speed up the rate of fire and movement, that makes it far, far better. They actually have this game in a restaurant where I live, built into a table. And let me tell you, it isn't worth playing because the table is sticky and the joystick is broken. G.I. Joe is an on-the-rails shooter that seems to be based on the G2 version of G.I. Joe, even having the "Got to Get Tough, Yo Joe" song play. On-rail shooters aren't really my genre, but I really enjoyed seeing the G.I. Joe sprites and characters. Also, having Cobra Commander be intimidating was a choice. I kinda like it. It's different.
Long live Cobra, the greatest!
Golden Axe Return of Death Adder is the best Golden Axe game out there. It's a lot of fun, has multiple options, and a lot more story beats. My main issue is the second half of the game really drags. The first is super exciting, but that second half I remember playing with my sister and she was like, "Oh my god, when does this end?" The fight against Death Adder is pretty cool though. Joust. You're like on an ostrich and you gotta land on the head of your enemy, and if they land on your head then you're dead. This wasn't for me, but a lot of people are obsessed with this game. Every time I go to an arcade I see it. Joust 2, very much like Joust. King of Dragons is a beat 'em up that kinda feels like, what if those D&D games I love were like more mediocre? It's still fine, but it gets outshined by almost every beat 'em up on this list. Marble Madness. In some ways it reminds me of Monkey Ball. You're in a ball and you roll through obstacles to get to the goal. The isometric view has to be where the game fails for me. I'd much rather play Monkey Ball. Michael Jackson Moonwalker is a super weird dancing beat 'em up that's fun, but it's also like, why the hell was this made? Missile Command, I'm pretty sure the game was featured in Terminator 2, the movie. But anyway, it's an Atari classic. I remember being a kid and this adult told me, "Oh, this is my favorite game." And after playing it, I was like, this is your favorite game? Oh shit, man, you need to play more games. I didn't say oh shit, because as a kid, it was probably like, oh gosh, gee, mister. Miss Pac-Man takes Pac-Man and just makes it a bit better with more level layouts and a fucking bow on your head. Pac-Man perhaps the most famous arcade game. People couldn't get enough of it. People could not get enough of it, and it spawned so much media and merchandise, and also a better game called Miss Pac-Man. It's a good game. Pit Fighter is this really cool game of underground fighting for money. I love that it has men and women. I love that the audience can push you or hurt you. I love that they added stuff from movies too, like a fight where cars surround you, like in the movie Lionheart. Now where this falls flat for me is combat. Combat is fucking awful here, and money is more like points. There's nothing to spend it on. If I got to do like some sort of reboot of the game, I'd change the graphics to be more modern. I'd add a world you can run around with shops so you have something to spend your money on, and like a house and stuff. And maybe you can spend your money on skills and shit too. Maybe you also got like bills to pay, so if you don't have enough fight money, you can literally go down to the bottom, but if you have enough, you can rise to the top. Yeah, like your bed could help you get like a better night's sleep, or if you have like a cheaper bed, it'll be worse, so you gotta like take care of yourself, you know? You gotta virtually take care of yourself, I say, as a concept for a game while not taking care of myself well in real life. Anyway, I'd change the combat to be closer to Tekken or Soul Calibur, and I'd add a lot more story elements and choices of when and where and who you fight. Basically, I really like the idea of Pit Fighter, but I don't like the execution. Pole Position is Namco's classic Formula 1 racing game. It's cool and it advertises Namco's properties as well as billboards. To be honest though, this game is not for me. Pong is as classic as you can get. I feel like everybody knows Pong. There's 1,000 versions of it. Pong is just ping pong, that's really it. Next is Pulirula. This is a Japanese beat 'em up on arcade machines. It starts off cute and childlike, but then honestly, it's something you should experience for yourself. I couldn't find a lot of information on the game, nor could I find it tied to anything, and I don't want to spoil the game for you because it's worth a play. It's just a bunch of nonsense, really, that makes you wonder what the hell you will see next. It's for sure one to play. Rally X is a game where you play as a car and have to grab flags without being hit by other cars or running out of gas. It has a maze-like structure, and it's kind of like Pac-Man, except you're a car that farts. Rampart seems to be a very old tower defense game. It's fine, but there are far, far better ones now. Robotron kind of reminds me of a game called Berserk. Anyway, in this game you save people and you try to get the robots killed. I didn't really like this one as much. Root Beer Tapper is trying to get customers' orders right as quick as possible. The concept is good. The game's pretty eh. I've played a lot of games with this concept. I actually really like them. Right now, my favorite is called Played Up, and it is on Steam, and it's really good. Satan's Hollow. This is like Space Invaders or Galaxian. You are shooting these ships that for sure look like Star Trek ships. And there's also the devil and such. I don't know. Sega Sonic uses a trackball, so I couldn't get it to work right, but I tried so hard. Anyway, it seemed neat. Shinobi. This is the Shinobi that started it all. You go through fighting enemies with your ninja stars and rescuing hostages. Marilyn Monroe's face is in this game, and so is an enemy who looks a lot like the Shredder. I really enjoy this game, but I've never beat it because I swear the ending is outrageously unfair. Sinistar. I don't know what this is, but it's fucking chaotic and I hate it. Sly Spy. It's not a James Bond game in name, but in every other way, down to the golden gun, this is definitely a James Bond game. In the same vein of like Iswa or Shinobi. I mean, tell me this is an odd job. If you're a Bond fan, I feel like this is a must play. Sonic and the Fighters. I did really enjoy playing this with friends, but is it a good fighting game? Hell no. This is also the first game, technically, to have him in 3D, even before Adventure. The Spider-Man arcade game. This one seems to be forgotten about, as I almost never hear anything about it, which is surprising because it is very good. You play as 4 characters: Spider-Man, Black Cat, Namor, and Hawkeye. I don't really even bother with the others though, because you know me, I'm going straight for Black Cat. The game is a beat-em-up with large sprites, and there are other sections where the sprites are smaller and more platforming is involved. You fight a ton of villains, from Venom, Sandman, Electro, Lizard, Scorpion, Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, Doc Ock, Kingpin, and the final boss, Dr. Doom. Green Goblin is always the worst to fight, as he flies around and you just gotta slowly take his health down with some jumping in the air kicks and such. And Kingpin has a large photo of himself, and honestly, I need to do the same. It's a decent beat 'em up. If I had to complain about something, the henchmen you fight not only look dumb, but sound super unthreatening. Also, you have to fight so many bosses twice, and that's annoying. Spy Hunter. You're a car with a machine gun doing your thing. It's not for me. Spy Hunter 2, you're a car with a machine gun doing your thing. Again. This one looks better though, and I like how it tried to make it look like there was hills, so it wasn't just flat. Sunset Riders is a shoot-'em-up western that has a lot of charm and it's a lot of fun. You're a bounty hunter going after whoever the bounty is for and shooting everyone in your path. Now, it does have some problematic things in it that hold me back from giving it a full recommendation. Like, yes, this is a fun game, but there's just so many gross stereotypes. Hell, this one's not even a stereotype, but I feel like something's gross about this. I don't know what, but yuck. All I know is it would be better without all the race shit in it. It's mainly against Native Americans where I have the issue with it, I guess. And it would also be great if there was some non-male cowboys too. I'm sure that would piss some people off about like history or some dumb shit like that. But this is like a fictionalized version of the West. Why the fuck not? Because the only women in this game are damsels in distress or saloon dancers, so I don't know. Tweak a few things and I think it would have my full recommendation. Super Sprint. I swear to God, I just played this game. Isn't this a game I already played, except under a different name? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Arcade is one of the best beat-em-ups to ever exist. I sank so many hours into this. And it would get a gold star, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Turtles in Time exists, and it just barely beats it in my opinion. Both are top-notch beat-em-ups, you can't go wrong with them. I love them both so much, from the music to the sprites to the combat, everything is good. Now, both of these Turtles arcade games I played a lot growing up because they were in our arcades and our Pizza Huts and our movie theaters, and I'm sure I spent way too much in quarters, but one day I think I'm gonna buy an arcade cabinet for the house, and one of these TMNT games will be there, if not both. Tempest is a game that fooled me into thinking it was gonna be super cool. It's actually just a vector-based shooter that's pretty mid. Tubin is a game where you are in a tube floating down the water, dodging obstacles and trying to go between flags for points. Not my thing at all. Total Carnage plays exactly like Smash TV, and it's from the creators of Smash TV. It's a fast-paced gun action and military game where you're saving people. But it's not like realistic, it's more like 80s action hero. Think Commando. There's tons of guns, and honestly, if you love Smash TV, you'll love this. Tournament Cyberball 2072 is a bad football game with robot players, I guess set in the year 2072. Toy Pop is one of the first arcade games to actually have an ending. Being out at the same time as Pac-Man and Dig Dug, it's just cool that it has an ending and a final boss. You find hearts that open doors and make it to the end, and each weapon kills enemies differently, so you gotta choose your weapon wisely. It's a ton of fun, and I played it with siblings. It's a great 2-player game. As a 1-player game, it's pretty but as a 2-player game, that's where it really, really shines. Weird, but all the X-Men have a basic attack and a special attack that uses their powers. The game also has some funny, not even tank control. Warriors of Fate is a fantastic beat-em-up. I got a chance to play with a friend all the way through. It's sort of like Golden Axe, but more Eastern inspired. Xenophobe barely gives you screen room, and I hate that. It's a game of collecting items and killing aliens. It's mediocre, and there is far better. Next, of course, the X-Men arcade game. This game gives you 6 playable X-Men: Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Colossus, Dazzler, Storm, and Wolverine. Professor X and Kitty Pryde are also in the game, but they are not playable. The cast of characters is an interesting bunch, because before we got the X-Men animated series, there was another one that ran only 1 episode, in which the characters were the same as they are in the game, making me wonder if this was supposed to be a tie-in game. However, I haven't found any information confirming that. In the game, you
Go and save the city.
which means fighting popular villains from X-Men and also a bunch of tiny sentinels. This game is a blast and possibly my favorite beat-em-up on the arcade. Storm has a scepter, which is weird, but all the X-Men have a basic attack and a special attack that uses their powers. The game also has some funny dialogue.
X-Men, welcome to die. I am Magneto, master of Magnet. Kill you! You are dead!
Zybots. I wish it had more screen space, but this is one of the earliest 3D shooters, and even with a really rudimentary camera that can turn with you, it's not too bad. Alright, let's go ahead and pick our top 10. Alright, here we go. So I only have 12 here, so this is going to go a lot faster. I just got to get rid of 2. This is hard though, because these are all really, really good. I think I'm going to get rid of Total Carnage. Okay, I just got to get rid of 1 left, and then I will put this in order. Oh boy, this is tricky. Do I go with... I might be going with Armored Warriors. I think I'm going with Shinobi. Psych. Okay. At number 10, G.I. Joe. At number 9, Golden Axe, The Revenge of Death Adder. At number 8, Armored Warriors. At number 7, Alien Storm. At number 6, Dig Dug. At number 5, Spider-Man. At number 4, Toy Pop. At number 3, X-Men. At number 2, Dungeons and Dragons Shadow over Mysteria. Mystara? Shadow over Mystara. And at number 1, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. These are the top 10 arcade games according to me. I recommend all of these. Also make sure to like and subscribe, and I have plenty of other ones I've done before. I've done SNES, I've done Genesis, PlayStation, N64. Go ahead and check out other top 10 quest videos I've done.